Hi, I'm Ted from Everything Attachments, and this is my son Charles. He goes by Chuck around here, EA Chuck. All of y'all pretty much know me from the videos. We have not done a video in a long time around here. This is new for 2025. We're hoping for better things going forward for many years for 2025, and for Chuck to be here for a lot of years to take care of customers. So just by chance, we happen to be getting ready to we just got through making some grapples, getting ready to ship some out. And we noticed we had almost every grapple, one size of almost every model grapple that we make. We're at one place at one time. So we had a small window to make this video where we can show you all the grapple models we make, and then we'll go over each one by one. So the first grapple we ever made, and this is the very first grapple, and I think this grapple's probably gone through the least amount of changes that any grapple that we've built has. This is a 50-inch, what we call a long bottom root grapple, but it's not a root rake grapple meant to rake and root trees and stuff like this style is, like the clamshell right here to the side. So on the 50 here, there's some really neat things. One of the things is we keep the spacing wide just to keep the weight down for those smaller tractors, and we do have the slats that bolt in the middle so it doesn't let all the really big stuff just go through. You can pick or choose to put those in or out. These teeth on the outside edges of the main tines that make the bend here, which keeps you from having to put that really big gusset in here. So when you don't have to put that gusset, the smaller tractors can push through the ground a whole lot easier. So on this outer, this is a triple laminated piece of this tine, and the outer pieces on all our grapples, no matter what style, are hard ox. And that's what gives us its strength from bending and from wearing, especially on these sharp teeth. Also, the outer lid, the outer tine, or whatever you want to call this, on the outside of the standard long bottom grapples are also hard ox, and that keeps them from tweaking. Almost everybody's grapple in this style, even on the rake style grapple, everybody puts the tine usually in the middle. They put the lid tine in the middle of the main tines because, number one, they don't have to be perfectly lined up, and they don't have to perfectly fit. Makes them easy to build, makes them easy to put together. You won't know if it's a ½ inch off or not because it's just in the middle of 7 inches. When we build ours at Everything Attachments, we want these to touch. We want you to be able to pick up the smallest stuff you want to all the way out here on the end. You can literally pick up a penny or whatever you want to. There is no gap there. You've got these nice grippers here. We've built these lids solid enough that we don't mind you pulling back on things. This would be used, this is a 50-inch grapple. The reason it's 50 is because that's what it takes as a minimum width to get a John Deere hitch on there. The standard skid steer hitch is 45 inches. A John Deere takes a little more, so that's why we make it 50. I loved, you might have seen a video we did with this grapple. It was one of the first videos we did. My tractor's not in here right now. It's with the little Bobcat tractor, which would be a Coyote under a Bobcat skin. But we did a really cool grapple, hung the tractor up on a tree a couple times, did a lot of work with it. Great tractor. From that size of that little Bobcat up to about 30 horsepower or so for this little grapple. So a BX or whatever, as long as you've got a skid steer quick attach, would work with this fine. Then we go to the standard compact grapple. This is a dual lid. You can get it in a single or a dual lid. I was always a big fan of the dual lids. I'm becoming more of a fan of a single lid even on these. I especially love the rake style grapples, but if you need the longer bottom, these are great. They're still going to have the hard ox ends that are laminated, plug welded. Ends are going to touch end to end. We use 1/4 inch thick structural steel everywhere. Come on in, Nate, and I'm going to show you something that's on all our grapples, and it's probably as easy to see on this. As simple as this 50 is, usually what you'll see is this tine right here and this piece right here that goes up on the lid. I'm going to switch sides. So this is normally what you're going to see on any grapple, whether it's a cheap grapple or a good grapple. And usually what you'll see is you won't see this pipe, and you'll see a 3/4 inch bolt or something right here. And that is simply just these two pieces of metal with a 3/4 inch hole and a bolt holding that together on both sides. And what we do here is we put a tubing of DOM all the way through all the tops of the lids. Then we put a solid 1-inch cold roll rod all the way through and make so there's a cold roll rod from one end to the other in this grapple. And that's why we don't have any lid problems, and they always stay true. So we even go to the trouble, because when you're using this grapple and you're pulling on this lid sideways and so forth, if you've got this just bolted together with a 3/4 inch bolt, and these two pieces of metal are side by side, and you're pulling over to the side with this lid, as you go up and down, it's just trying to shear the edges off of this piece of metal. So we weld another washer inside there to space this over so this can rotate like it should. Now these have not been greased because they're getting ready to be shipped. When this was greased, you've got this hard washer right here that's going to rub against this. It can be pulled over as far as it wanted to be. It still can't rub the edges off your metal, because we just go to little troubles like that to make our product better. Just the extra strapping on the back. This is cold roll, 3/16 by half. Keeps a lot of debris from just pushing through easily on your tractor. We double on the hitches. It's not just a bent piece. It's got two pieces welded fully together all the way across. We also, on all our grapples, we'll move on to the compact, back to the compact. On all our grapples, every tine on this grapple will be a one-piece tine. This curve here is an expensive piece, because when you're nesting these to cut out of a big sheet of steel, you're going to get a whole lot more single straight pieces than you are something with a curve like that. So a lot of the cheaper grapples will give you a solid piece on the end and make you think they're all solid. But if you look at the square pipe, a lot of them are simply just a square rail going up and a square rail coming out. And that does two things. One, if that's the way you're going to build it, it keeps you from being able to put this 15-degree slope on it. So ours are able to pull back that extra 15 degrees without having to raise it up to get some angle. Number two, if this is your flat edge, on the other, it's going to continue straight. This arch right here allows you to get into the roots and roll your grapple back without it already being in the dirt. Keeping your hitch up. This one happens to be for John Deere. Keeping you out of the dirt. It's more expensive to build, but it just works better. I build everything attachments to be what I want to use for myself. There's a whole lot of times where you could use a grapple that is lighter than I'm wanting to sell you, but I want to sell you a grapple that you can't tear up even if you're doing anything you want to with it. So we want to size it correctly to not tear up. We do a lot of things like put the spring saver kit on here, and we go to come right here, Nate. As you can see, these are swivel fittings. They're over twice the price of a regular fitting, but they let that hose work instead of twist and everything. So there's just a lot of things that are on everything attachment grapples that you're not going to find anywhere else. You're not going to find a solid tine on every other one or every third one. I see a lot of grapples, there's only a solid tine on the end, and then there's only one every now and then. That's only half as good at best. Not to mention, I've even seen them use the square bar to the tube, use the square bar to the top, and then take this piece right here and cut it separately and weld it to it to make it look like it's a one-piece grapple. And it's not. All our grapples are going to use this same common pin that run all the full length of the lid, whether the small dual lids or a big single. You're going to get the cold roll center. You're going to get the grease fittings. And to be honest with you, a whole lot of the strength of this lid is due to the actual plates welded in there that make the wicked guards. That protects the cylinder. It's thick, it's welded fully, and that's what keeps the lid from moving. I see all these cheap grapples out there, and it seems like our customers, when they get their stuff, they want it to work, they want it to be right, they don't want it to bend, and that's the way I want them. I look at so many of these forums, and some of the tines are pulled off to the side, and they're just like, oh, just stick it back and weld it. That's not what we want you to have to do on everything attachment grapple. Everything is made to go the distance. So they're meant to go the long run, and all of this is part of what makes everything better. Touching here, making it tight, just a lid that's almost indestructible.
What size tractor are you going to recommend this one?
A good question. So this tractor, the standard compact is good for about, depending on your frame size, and that's what gets you between the newer tractors and the older tractors, and what brand of tractor. Kubota's middleweight. A Mahindra can be a really heavy tractor, and some of them are just lighter. So mostly horsepower is kind of a tough thing, considering they make a 33 horsepower BX, which obviously has plenty of horsepower, but not enough weight to really run this grapple well. You would use the 50, or the little root rake that we make specially for it. This would be for a class 1 tractor, minimum, in the 20-ish horsepower range, up to a 55 horsepower tractor, as long as it didn't have a backhoe on the back or a cab. If it's got that extra weight, then I want to move you up to the next level, which will be the mega compact grapple or utility grapple. When you get above 55 horsepower, you've got a cab, you've got a backhoe on it, then you've got, this is good up to 75 horsepower. It's really thick right here on the lid so they don't twist. Because you've got, even though a lot of this stuff, Grapple started out on skid steers, and they were a great tool. Skid steer has a ton of lifting capacity, but a large tractor with agriculture tires especially has a ton of push power. So there's kind of the happy medium between, yes, it won't lift but so much, but I can push 5 times that much. So you've got to balance everything right. So if I can push 5 times that much, I can pull 5 times that much. So that's why we make those lids so thick right here, because if you're grabbing a tree and you grab it in the middle, as soon as you start forwards or backwards, it wants to twist one way or the other. That's all there is to it. So if you can keep these lids from twisting, you can pretty much save everything. On a cheaper grapple, I see a lot of them that come straight out to about here, and then they come straight down. And usually this whole piece here is just a piece of metal. It's not even got an inner lid at all in it. And that's going to be the easiest grapple to bend ever. They come down with one single sheet. This is an integrated whole piece. There's another piece of pipe that you can't even see back here that runs right here, just making it extra strong. I'd lift it and show you, but these are already banded down. Every one of these are sold and will ship out Monday. It's got the grippers up here, so we don't mind you gripping onto things and being able to pull backwards. The way we do the backs of our lid, the way we do the extra bracing in here that you can't even see, we're okay with you using these grapples however you want to.
These are hard ox on the outside too.
Oh yeah, and the outside tines are hard ox, and so are all the inner pieces. Thanks, Chuck. So Chuck will be around for a long time. He'll be he's been doing videos for a while of his own stuff. He does car racing, and so he's great at work and he's great at the racetrack. We just need to keep him around here for a lot of years. So if you go up even bigger in tractors, this goes up to the 125 horsepower, has 1/2-inch thick lids, all the same build I just told you with the pipe DOM right behind here. So that's why we allow you to pull with those grippers. Pretty sharp, by the way. And if you see right here, come here, Nate. We weld these inner, and you could call them a gusset in one way, but they're really meant to hold this plate, because if you want to do land clearing and stuff, it allows you to use these plates that can be bolted on or off, but it gives you a lot of grip and able to pull things out. And as you notice, every one of these tines are the full cutout tine, not the two-piece tine. But this is a 2-inch piece of DOM on the bottom. When you get up to 125 horsepower tractor, you've just got so much push power. Come around to the back of this, Nate. This one happens to be for a Euro hitch. So somebody will probably recognize this coming to them next week. But you can see even these plates right here, just to get a good true round hole. I want that hole in there to be good and true, or it's going to wear on the pin. If I take a piece of 1-inch steel, and I've got as good lasers as there are made, which would be the Bystronic Bystars at 15,000 watts, even if I do that hole in 1-inch steel, it's going to be better than most everybody's. But it will never be as good as 2 pieces of 1/2 inch, because what you end up with in a round hole, one side is always going to be a little bigger than the other side. So it's going to start wearing on the tightest end. And then as it wears, it'll work its way and get the full surface area. Well, you want the full surface area to start with so it doesn't start wearing. And we can get the holes perfect enough in 1/2 inch that it is a flat surface. And so when we weld this all the way across the back, beautiful weld all that in, and it's a lot of work to do, but it's the difference between how long your grapple lasts. It's also laminated on the front pieces. Then you've got these big gussets here that go in on the top, keeps this whole tall platform. We put a lot of height on this top pin so we can give you a lot of leverage with a big tractor, 10-inch stroke. Still have the swivel fittings. This is and you can tell a lot if you ever look at somebody's grapple or any structural tube and you can't see in the end of it. You can always look at the radius here and tell exactly what the thickness of the pipe is. If you see a square there, if it's a real sharp square, it's going to be really thin. If you see a big round radius like that, this is 3/8 of an inch right here. 4x4, 3/8, it's about $30 a foot. It's not light, it's not cheap, but it's what you need for 125 horsepower. Same way on the ends, it's fully welded all the way around the tubes. We can put most hitches. We've kind of limited ourselves on hitches to the John Deere 4 and 500 on the smaller grapples, the standard universal skid steer, or the Euro hitch, Euro Global, which is sometimes on John Deere's and other tractors. I've got one on my Kubota actually. We take the ends of that 4x4 that are going to be scrap and cut out these gussets here, and it just makes this lid turn into a whole different animal on its strength and what it's going to do. So these are actually wedges cut out of a tube just like that. And they were going to be scrap, but now they're just making this stronger.
Would you put this grapple on your M? It'd be a little wide probably, but.
So this is the grapple. The first grapple I built like this was a 96 inch. I put it on my M141, and in the very first video we did, I did what I was talking about that's hard on the lids. I grabbed a large tree I'd pushed down and tried pulling it sideways. It bent my whole loader. So it didn't bend the grapple. All I did was paint it and sell it to the next customer. It did bend the loader on my M141. But this 3/8 tube can take it.
And do you usually recommend keeping the grapple as wide as your loader just for that reason, not going too far out?
I recommend keeping it as narrow as I can get by with. Just keep in mind a skid steer loader from 30 years ago. It was built to be a lifting, digging, pushing machine. A tractor, meaning a farm tractor, compact tractor, were loaders and all are great. They're needed around the farm. They're getting stronger every day. But basically they were meant to be lifting hay bales, moving mulch, things like that. They weren't really meant for grapples. So when you do put a grapple on a farm loader, then we want to keep, if this is where your loader rails are, however wide they are. And that's why we keep our rake grapples to a maximum of 66 inches, because they're really meant to tear up roots, trees, and things like that. We won't let you go wide. If you've got a wide grapple on a farm loader, just consider yourself you're on the tractor right now, and you can see this side over here. The hood of your tractor's here, so where do you normally want to go and use it? You want to use it where you can see it. So inevitably, you'll go off to the side, and that's what got me where I tweaked my loader. So I do like to keep the distance. That's a good question, Chuck. I like to keep them no wider than they're needed. Just because you've got a 100 horsepower tractor, and you want to lift a 40-foot or a 100-foot tree, you're not going to get to both ends. So those extra 6 inches aren't going to matter. When you pick that tree up, balance it, since the ends are open, you're not limited to putting in like a bucket where you've got sides. You have no limit. So the narrower you keep your grapple, the more push force you're going to have per ton or per foot of pushing to be able to do the work you want to do.
Do you want to talk about some recent improvements to this grapple? I think the only thing that we've really changed recently is we did put the DOM in there, and we made the lid maybe 4 inches wider.
Yeah, that's true. On the bigger grapples, if you notice, the lids were this lid right here. Basically the same lid width. And if you'll notice, we have widened these out. How much? About 4 inches on each lid. So these got wider. They fit these bigger grapples better. It's just a better matchup. And it's things like here. Come around to here, Nate. When you talk about greasing these things, if we just put the regular pin that comes with the cylinders up here at the front where you're going to be in your brush and stuff, we lose the pins, things can happen. We go all the way to the trouble, and this is not cheap. This is a grade 5 bolt. It's been faced in the mill. Chuck now runs the mill also. This bolt's been faced. It's been gun drilled 1/8 of an inch all the way to about right here. Then it's had 2 holes. You can see one of them right here, Nate, right between there. You can see the hole that's going, when it tightens up, it's going to be in the middle of here. But you can see the hole where you grease it. Then this is all countersunk to put the grease fitting in to where it doesn't stick out and you can't knock it off. So that's about a $35 labor bolt in our mill, but it works and it never causes a problem. So there's just so many things and everything attachments that we're willing to do that definitely cost us more money. So if you're pricing grapples only on price and don't care about if it's going to bend or not, we're probably definitely not in that ballpark. Our grapples aren't cheap, but you will get more grapple, more design, and more usefulness and less damage out of an everything attachments grapple than anyone else's. And what that boils down to is just value. They're not the cheapest, but at the end of 10 years or the next generation, these grapples are still going to be good. They're not going to be scrapped. And that means that, you know, a lot of people get them, use them a couple of years, and for instant delivery can get almost 100% of their money back. They're a great reseller for other people. We can't keep them built fast enough. We're still taking on some new welders and stuff to get our production up. Spring's rolling in, so get your orders in.